Good day. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. I cannot complain. It is nice out today, at least here in Indiana. It is nice. It's still February, but the temperatures are going to get up into the upper 60s. It's going to be like 68 degrees. And I'm kind of upset that I have to go into work today because I'd rather be out here enjoying some of this nice weather that we're finally starting to get. But it is what it is. Well, anyhow, welcome to another episode of Life of a Single Man. For those of you that have subscribed to the channel, I appreciate every last one of you. For those of you that have watched any of my videos or left comments below, I appreciate you people as well. And, so let's get to it. Well, many of us have been told by the uh, I guess you can say, professionals of some of the benefits of being involved in a meaningful relationship, namely marriage. Now, for those of you that are in a marriage, you're in a relationship, you're happy, things are going good. I'm glad, and I'm happy for every last one of you. So this video I'm getting ready to do is not to discourage anyone. Now, for those of you that want to be in a relationship, I wish you people the best of luck in finding your special someone, and hopefully once you do, things work out for you folks. This video is not a video to discourage anybody from being in a relationship. This is just a video that points out some of the benefits of being single. I'm a single man at this point myself. Now, am I open to date? In the near future, once I get a few things in order, I will be. But anyhow, let's go down the list here. Now, I was reading an article as I was preparing a video for my other channel, Andrew's Life. Go check me out over there. Some of you might like what you see. But as I was prepping this video for my other channel, I thought, you know what? Let me. This article came up on Business Insider. It came up, on my feed, so I decided to read it, and it listed some of the benefits of being single, and I thought it would be a good video for it today. So here are the 7 benefits of being single, and again, this is from Business Insider. Space to think. Well, space to think. Okay, well, I think that's self-explanatory, but let me elaborate on that a little bit. Now, of course, if you're in a relationship, some of your time is going to be busy trying to, mentally, you're going to be thinking about the needs and wants of the person whom you're in a relationship with. Whether it be a relationship to where you're just in a dating stage, or whether it be a full-blown marriage. But if you're in a relationship, you're going to, naturally, a piece of you is going to go to the other person. So when your thoughts are going to, you're going to be thinking about the other person at some point, which in many cases could take away the mental space that you need to think about yourself. Like, rather than thinking about, like, for an example, rather than thinking about what might make you happy in life, you're thinking about what can you do to make the person who you're with happy, to where the relationship will work out. To where if you're in that, maybe boyfriend girlfriend stage, it might turn into a husband and wife type of situation. And another example might be is you might, it might be routine for you to get up and go to work every day. And then maybe over the weekends, you take your significant other out to eat. You buy them a special gift. You know, you do what some people will call courting them. So, you know, as the week is winding up, you're thinking, okay, what can I do special for this significant other that I'm interested in, that I want to continue to build with, as opposed to maybe getting up in the morning and maybe thinking, you know what, yeah, I'm grateful to have a job, but what are some ways to where I could maybe work a job I like better? Because let's just be real, there's a lot of folks out here who go to work and they do not like what they do. Either they don't like the work they do, they don't like who they work for, or it could be a combination of both. So sometimes when you're in a relationship, especially if you're in a marriage, you're not gonna have as much time to think about your job on whether you like what you do or you don't like what you do. You're gonna be thinking about, okay, I gotta get to work, I gotta make this money. If my supervisor comes up to me and asks me if I want to work overtime, I'm gonna take it because it's extra money to where I can make things happen for me and my significant other. As where if you're single, you're by yourself, you're gonna be thinking, do I really want to continue to work this job even though I don't like the work I do? Do I really want to stay working for this company, or do I want to go out here and find something else that I might like a little better, or something that might be a little bit more tolerable at least? So those are my examples. Those are my examples of space to think. And also with space to think, if you're not, some of the time that you might spend thinking about the other person whom you're with, give me a second, people. Yeah, sorry about that. I just had to readjust it. All right. Anyways, some of the time that you might spend thinking about the other person, that might be time that you can spend thinking about yourself. Like maybe the way your life is going, it may not be how you want life to be. You're thinking of ways to enhance your life a little bit, ways to make yourself happier. Okay, let's move down. All right, more time for physical activity. Again, fairly self-explanatory. Now, I would say if you're dating or you're in a relationship with a person who is also physically active, I think the more time for physical activity is not going to be an issue because most likely, if you're going to the gym and hitting the weights or doing what you do, your significant other is going to probably go with you. Or if you're going to go outside and take a jog at the park or a jog around your block or whatever the case might be, chances are the person who you're with is going to probably want to do the same. Even if you two live separately. Well, yeah, I think, well, I'll skip that one. But anyways, now if you're, now I would say the only time where more time for physical activity will come into play if you're single compared to being in a relationship is if you're out here dating people that don't share the same interest in exercising as yourself. Now, if you're in a situation where you're dating a person that doesn't share the same interest in physical activity as yourself, then yeah, I would say being single would be better in a sense of having more time to take care of your health. So I would say that one is largely depending. I would say the second one, more time for physical activity, it largely depends on who you date. I mean, if being healthy is important, you're either you're gonna probably want to date someone that shares some of those interests as you do, or if you choose to date someone who doesn't really care so much about that, you're gonna have to find a way to allow time to continue to take care of your health. Because you should, if you're health conscious, you should never quit being health conscious because you're dating somebody who's not. That's my take on that one. Okay, the next one is single people are better at keeping friends. Again, that could be debatable because it depends on what kind of friends you got in your circle. Now, I could go all directions on that one, but just for the sake of keeping the video uh, not too long, let's see here. I would say single people are better at keeping friends. Depends on just who your circle of friends are compared to the people that you're dating. Now, I would say with many people, the people that you date typically are gonna in some way fit in with the circle of friends you already have. Now, if you have a bunch of friends that are burnouts, if you got a bunch of friends that are burnouts and they like to abuse alcohol or illegal substances, and then you're dating a woman who's living a life on the straight and narrow, who's clean, who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, doesn't do any type of illegal substances, then yeah, she's not going to get along too well with none of your friends. So I would say with that one, it depends. I would say at the least that could be very debatable. If you're dating someone and they don't like none of your friends, I mean, I get what they're saying on that one, but because at that point you gotta make a choice. Is it gonna be the person who you plan to spend your life with potentially, or are you gonna stay with your friends? I guess on that one it depends on how good your friends are to you. Are you close? Are you tight? It all depends. Let's go to the next one. Some Now sometimes better off financially. Oh, and by the way, I didn't copy for verbatim these benefits. I took what they said and I paraphrased it to where, you know, to where I'm speaking plain English here. So anyhow, the next one is sometimes better off financially. Now, I would say for the most part, yes, if you're single, you will be better off financially because as I've told you on one of the videos I made last week, I forgot which one it was. Any which way you cut the pie, dating typically is going to cost you some kind of money. Even if you spend, let's say, $40 on a date, you take a woman out to eat, and even if it's $40 tip included, which in this day and age for a date is relatively cheap. If you're, $40. If you go on a date even once a week, $40. 40 times 4 is $160. Now, in the scheme of things, $160 is not a lot of money. But if you're one of these people that, you may have been laid off your job and now you're living off of savings, or you're living off of your unemployment, or you're just working an extra crappy job that doesn't pay worth a shit, $160 could make a difference. $160 could be a week or so worth of groceries. It could be a couple of weeks worth of gas in your vehicle. It could be a utility bill, like it could be a water bill. You know what I'm saying? But I would say for the most part, I would agree with that one. If you're single, your money is going to typically hold a little better because you're not going to be spending that extra money on going out to dates. And typically, when you're in a relationship, You know, now, now, of course, if you're in a marriage, I would say even if you're in a marriage, especially as you know, now this is of course going out to the men. I would say especially if you're in a marriage. I mean, I would say in most cases as a man. Now, again, studies are going to tell you that if you're in a marriage, you're going to actually have more money. Your earning abilities are going to be better if you're married as opposed to being single. And studies have shown that. And I think one reason being is when you apply for certain type of positions that might be of a higher pay or of a higher status, if they look at you and they know that you're married, or they're going to think, okay, you're married, they know you're desirable, and they're gonna and a lot of employers are going to also assume that you're going to be a more responsible employee than someone who's out here single. So I would say if you're married and you're married to the right type of woman and you're married for all the right purposes and the woman has a similar look on finances as yourself, I mean, I would say when it comes to doing sometimes better off financially, I mean, I would say depending on the situation of your marriage, you could, you could do better financially being married as opposed to being single. But definitely, if you're married to the wrong type of woman, then I would say in that regard, someone who's not married or in a relationship will typically do better financially than that person who's married to the wrong type of person. And I would say for those who are not married but in a relationship, I would definitely say for those who are for men who are single, typically the money is going to be a little better because you're not spending money on a bunch of dates. So, okay, let's go down here. Doing better at work. Okay, well, doing better at work. I mean, again, it depends on the situation. Now if you're married and you're married to a good woman or a good partner, I mean, typically, the two of you are going to work together. Like, like depending on, like if both of you have to work, maybe you'll split the house chores down the middle. Or if both of you are working different hours, different shifts. Like if I'm working second and I was married and I had a wife that worked the morning shift. I mean, there's a chance I might get up and I might make her lunch and make some breakfast. That way, when she gets up, she ain't got to worry about that type of stuff. But then when she comes home, by the time she comes home from work, chances are I'll be at work. But then when I come home at night, maybe she might do a little something for me that she knows I like. So I would say when it comes to doing better at work, I mean, I would say what that boils down to is if you're married and your home life is good, you and your husband or you and your wife are getting along together. Typically you're gonna have a much smoother day at work. But if you're going back and forth with whoever you're married to, then your day at work is gonna be crappy because you're gonna go to work. You're gonna probably go to work and maybe you didn't get adequate sleep because you and your wife may have been up arguing over stupid shit, so you couldn't get good sleep. And by the time you finally were able to get some good sleep, it was time for you to wake up again. So I would say, if the household is peaceful between, for those of you that are married, for those of you men that are married, if the household is peaceful between you and your wife, then your day at work will most likely be pleasant, provided that you're working a job you like and your supervisor is not an asshole. Now, for those of you that are just in relationships, you're just out here dating. I mean, even in a situation like that, if you're dating someone who's quote unquote toxic, or for you men, you're dating a woman who's super needy and nagging, and she's never happy. She always wants to pick an argument. Again, your day at work could be crappy because when you go into work, now you're thinking about old girl. You're thinking, well, what did I do to piss her off? What can I do to make her feel better? Or two, maybe you're pissed off at her. And you're so pissed off you can't even focus on your job. Now, the good thing about being in a relationship is, if you're not married, is obviously if it gets to the point where it starts to affect your work performance and your supervisor pulls you off to the side and they say something to you about it, then at that point you're going to have to make a decision. I mean, if your relationship is hindering your work performance, you might want to go ahead and end that relationship and be about your money and go deal with somebody else that's not going to cause that type of madness in your life. And I would say, even if you're married, if your wife is hindering your work performance, you might want to sit down and have a talk with her and see if you can, whatever it is, whatever issues you're going through in your marriage, you might want to sit down and talk to her. You might want to sit down and seek professional help and get a third party involved. Or it might be time to part ways. Now, of course, it's easier said than done if you're married, but I'm just saying. But I would say, if you're a single person, I would say, when you compare someone that's in a bad relationship to someone who's single, the single person typically will do better at work. But I say all this to say that just because you're with somebody, just because you're in a relationship or you're married, does not mean that you're not going to do good at work. It just depends on the situation. Now, my next one is better adjusted for when they need to be alone or independence. So basically what that means is, if you're already single and, you're single, you're by yourself. So obviously you're independent anyway. You're used to being by yourself. So having to do things by yourself is no big deal. You're used to it. You've been doing it. It's nothing. It's secondhand nature to you. Being alone. Okay, well, if you're by yourself and you're single, most likely you're going to be alone a lot of times. So again, no big deal. It is what it is. You're not going to be, it is what it is. Now, when you take people that are married, and let's say they've been with their significant other for let's say 40, 50 years, and then something bad happens to the other person, like they pass away, a lot of times the survivor is going to go into mourning. And sometimes the mourning could result in them dying sooner or later. I'll give you guys an example. Like my father. Him and my mother, they've been married for 50 years. Now, this happened over 10 years ago. Now, they've been married for 50 years. Well, one day they took a trip to, they had their yearly anniversary, and typically they celebrated their anniversary after Christmas. So for this particular anniversary, they decided to take a trip out west. Well, they were on the train somewhere in New Mexico, and my mom started feeling like real sick. So, somehow they were able to stop the train or and get the attention of one of the workers. And I forgot exactly how it went, but I think before she even had a chance to go to the hospital, she has already began having a heart attack. So anyhow, she got to the hospital, and when she got to the hospital, she continued to have her heart attack. And then after her heart attack, she was in a coma. No, she wasn't in a coma. She had her heart attack, and I guess it was so bad that they had to put her on life support. Well, she was on life support for, I want to say, maybe 2 or 3 days. And the doctors were monitoring her, and they did not notice any improvement on her condition. And they said if she did improve, it wouldn't be by much. She would have most likely been a vegetable, basically, according to the doctors. So, my dad, he decided, what, we'll just go ahead and take off of life support. So at that point, she passed away. And from the day she passed away to the day that he passed away, that whole entire time, me, my brother, and my sister, we all watched my dad just slowly fall apart. I mean, his health began to decline. Something, significantly, his health began to decline. I mean, he began to develop dementia. Well, before even all that, I mean, his health just began to decline. I mean, he quit brush. I mean, out of mourning due to my mother's death. I mean, he quit brushing his teeth. He quit combing his hair. He quit taking showers. He began to develop dementia. The level of alertness that he used to have, a lot of that began to trickle away as he got more and more sick. I mean, he basically let himself go, to make a long story short. And so that's gonna be my example for better adjusted for when they need to be alone or independent. That's the best example I could come up with. Now we're gonna go down to the next one. Well, no, I got one more example. Now, of course, with that, of course, you got some people that they just have trouble being alone. They just have trouble being single. And there's people that have trouble being alone. They got trouble being single. That they'll even get in. I mean, they'll get into relationships that they have no business getting into, just for the sake of being with another person. All right, I'm gonna go on to the next one. The last one will be easier to find happiness in self. That would be. I mean, and these are the 7 benefits of being single, just as a reminder. And again, if you're single and you've been single for a substantial amount of time, I mean, after a while, it's not going to be that difficult to find happiness within yourself. Now, I'm a firm believer that before you can care and love somebody else, you gotta care and love yourself. So, when you're single, you learn to love yourself more. You learn to love yourself more. Therefore, you learn to do things that make you happy. You tend to find, you learn to find happiness within yourself. Now, if you're the kind of person that you've always been in a relationship ever since you can remember, and you don't really remember a time that you've been single as an adult or even as a teenager, you've always had a relationship, you always had a girlfriend, you always were married up and had a wife, and then something happens and now you're single again because she divorced you or whatever. A lot of people who are in those type of scenarios are going to have more trouble finding happiness and enjoyment within themselves. because they're used to somebody else being in their life. They're used to somebody else validating them to some degree. So if you're single, you know, you've been single for a substantial amount of time, you're gonna be used to being by yourself. Easier to find happiness in self is, I mean, it's gonna get to the point where it's second nature, and you're not gonna need nobody to validate you. But that could be much harder for somebody who's been in relationships most of their life to be able to do if they ever did become single. And many people like that, even if they are single, typically, as I said a second ago, on the reason I was discussing just a minute ago, a lot of people who have trouble being single, they're going to get into a relationship one way or another. Even if it proves to be a toxic relationship, they're going to get into it just for the sake of being with another person. Just for the sake of having another person validate them. Alright, folks, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. Uh, you know, I would appreciate if you guys help me out by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel while you're at it. I mean, let's get the subscriptions up here. Let's get these views up. That way I can get monetized for this channel, and then I'll have more time to put out more stuff for you people, because I'll be making more money, and ultimately I can quit my 9 to 5 and do YouTube a little more. Alright, folks. Stay blessed out there, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.